if I work with a hiker, I'll have them stand up against the wall so I can check out their posture, and I'll ask them, okay, put your fingers between the wall and your lumbar spine, and generally there's like a huge 2 or 3 inch gap, so you're flapping your fingers back there, but that your body should be able to touch your fingers. I mean, maybe an inch at the most.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's pretty wild. So that's what I mean. So if you stretch out your quads and your hip flexors, that allows you to suck in your stomach, flatten your back, and get into a normal, anatomically neutral posture. It's wild. I mean, it sounds a little overwhelming, but that's why sometimes if you're really in pain or having problems, then you should see a therapist in person other than doing a general search, because it is pretty overwhelming.
The bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
And I tell people all the time, never underestimate the Catskills. You can't underestimate them.
Why the Catskills is such a great place for trout.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskills.
1 second. All right, we're recording, but of course, I can edit this all the time. All right, so Stomp, I'm gonna jump right into it. This is episode 82, physical therapy with Stomp from the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. So Stomp is a damn straight. He's a podcaster, and you guys have shot it up big time in the past year and a half, 2 years, man.
Yeah, it's been wild. It's been fun to watch. I don't even pay attention anymore. It's sort of a distraction.
Yeah, right. I understand. I definitely understand.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I used to listen to my own stuff, but I don't do that anymore.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
Oh wow! I just got a SAR incident. Wow. Oh, it's a meeting. Okay, never mind. But I'm going to break this open.
Oh,
there we go. Did a little mic mic thing.
Nice. Yeah, I've got a mixed drink here, so no pop for me. Oh, it's Marion vodka, but no beer. No. Yeah.
So we're gonna jump right into it, Stomp. So a lot of people are wondering about my Pemi loop that I did. I haven't talked about it yet because nobody's really familiar with it, and you definitely are.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I've done it a couple times. Yeah.
In one day.
Yeah, I did them. Each time I've done it in a single day, and that was probably 4 or 5 years back when I was in a little bit better shape. I had some orthopedic issues, so it sort of curtailed my ability to do that. But yeah, man, I felt bad for you.
So you heard of the conditions, right?
That is no joke. I remember vaguely that it was sort of a wettish, cold weekend, if I remember correctly.
So correct. And when you did it, did you do it counterclockwise or clockwise?
Okay, so the first time I did it, it was clockwise, and it was a 90-degree day. So I started super early, 3 a.m, and by 11 o'clock, I was at Mount Lafayette, and it was already breaking high 80s, and it just went downhill from there. So that was a tough one. Holy moly. Second time was actually counterclockwise. And yeah, how about you? You broke it up, right?
So we went counterclockwise, and it was 3 days.
Okay.
So it wasn't one day like what you did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least you break it up, because it is really a very challenging loop for sure.
It
I
definitely
can't remember
is.
the exact mileage, but isn't it like what, 30, 31 or 33, somewhere around there?
Yeah, they said it was like 30, like 34, I think is what they tested it out as.
Okay. Yeah, they might have added in some spurs or this and that to alter the mileage, but Holy moly, that's a tough one. It's rated as one of the best, most beautiful loops in the nation, or if not the most challenging. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I actually I power hiked it. I didn't run it. I was trying to run it, but I power hiked it as fast as I could. And I came in at 12 hours. So that was really impressive for me. I'm like, that's per the fastest I've ever done. But anyway, tell me about your visit and how it all worked out.
So we started off, I don't know if you know about Guardian Revival with what's his name? I forgot his name already. Jesus. Mark?
Oh yeah, Mark Roland?
Yeah, Roland. Yep.
Okay.
So he's a badass. Let me just say that, Mark. I don't know if you're listening, but you are something else, let me tell you.
Yeah, he is. For sure.
So we started at Lincoln Woods, and then of course we did it counterclockwise. So we did the first 3 miles on Lincoln Woods, which was beautiful and very nice. Kind of breaking up clouds and nice sky going on, but we knew later on that there would be rain, and we were prepared for it. We were all prepared. My pack was huge. I had like a 42-pound pack, biggest of all the group.
Yeah, that's a good weight.
You know, being search and rescue, you want to be prepared for anything. And I was.
Especially with weather. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we started, I think our first creek crossing is where we hit the rain. It was past the part where you come out on Lincoln Woods for the end of the Pemmy Loop.
Yep.
And that started raining a little bit, and then it started getting heavier, and we just started ascending. All of a sudden it started just pouring rain, and we were all prepared for it and stuff like that, but it was kind of miserable because everybody talks about Bond Cliff and Bonds and the beautiful views that they have, and we didn't have anything. We didn't have crap. Everybody's got Bond Cliff on their pictures, and then we're just like, oh no, we didn't get anything. So
did you get it at all? Like mist? Could you see the cliff at all through the mist or anything like that?
We could see the cliff. That was it.
Gotcha. Okay. It's pretty stunning nonetheless, but yeah, I get it. You just don't get that whole view of the surroundings.
Yeah. It was pretty crappy, but after that we start going down the Bonds, and then we hit up is it Galehead next or
you're going clockwise? Yeah, so the Bonds, and then you have Geo.
Geo. We hit Geo. Yep. And
then we hit the Twins.
Yeah, we opted out of going up North Twin, was it, or South Twin?
North Twin, yeah.
So North Twin, we opted out. We were just like, screw this. We were in the rain constantly. We wanted to get down to the Guyot shelter, and when we got down there, it was still raining, still pouring. We had to set up tents on the platforms. We had to do our dinners in the rain with like 30 other people. It was miserable.
That's tough. Wow.
Yeah, but I gotta admit, you guys have great rocks to climb up and stuff. Like it's very grippy.
Yeah, right. Except when it's wet and raining.
Yeah.
That's
I thought it was very good. I thought it was actually very grippy.
Huh. Interesting. I find that it's really challenging when it's wet up here for whatever reason. Certain stretches of granite can be really treacherous. I mean, we've had pretty much, we're in this weird rain cycle right now. I don't know what the hell's going on, but it's been raining like cats and dogs. And we've had so many slips and falls. It's unbelievable. One every few days for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even so, we didn't, we barely have, nobody got, of course, injured, but we barely had any slips or falls or something. We had a couple, tiny little slips that you would always have here and there, but nothing of the, like, you'd look back and be like, oh crap, this is not good. And
yeah, well, you're lucky. That's great.
Yeah. So Guyot shelter, we spend the night, it's raining on and off. I try to hang my stuff up to dry, but it never did. I actually did pretty smart than the other people. I went underneath the platforms and I hung them up underneath the platforms, all my stuff, but it didn't help.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's
Yeah.
clever. Yeah. So, did you have wet clothing as well, or did you have some wet bags and things like that to protect things?
Everything was covered, but it still got wet.
Yeah,
It was
that's a bummer.
it was raining pretty bad, but I still had dry clothes for the next day. The next day we start off and it's beautiful, kind of like a beautiful sunrise. You can see clearness, but all of a sudden the rain comes back in.
Right.
Yeah. And then we hit the Garfield shelter. Is that what is it? Garfield?
Yes. Actually, Galehead. That's
Galehead.
Galehead shelter. So you come down, you come down South Twin, and then it's the Galehead shelter before you hit that long stretch of the Garfield Trail. I think you're thinking of the Garfield tent site, which is closer to the center of the northern rim of the Pemmy.
Yeah.
But Galehead's nice.
Yeah. It was very welcoming because just, hearing or seeing, an indoor kind of area where it's warm and we can eat food real quick. We had like a 30-minute break and we get out. We're all just sitting there and we have our t-shirts on and we're ready to go. And then it just starts pouring rain again.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man. You've been planning this trip for ages too, right?
Yeah, we had this plan for a couple months and it was difficult. It was we start going up and then it just continuously rains until we get to like Lafayette, when we start hitting that little climb up Lafayette.
Sure.
And it starts kind of like it's just mist and stuff like that. And we actually, it starts clearing up and we're like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Perfect, right?
Right. Perfect and beautiful. What a great spot for it to clear up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And we get up top there and Mark, the funny thing is I kind of, every time Mark looks at me and he was getting ready to tell me how much longer we have or how much elevation game, I would just flip him the finger.
Yeah, I'm sure he can take the prodding.
Yeah,
He's a good guy. He can flip it back just as easily.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. The only thing is, like, every one of these guys that and there was a woman on there too. They were all former veterans, so they've been through the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But we hit Lafayette, starts clearing up. We go down to the shelter down there. Oh my God, I'm so lost right now.
Oh, Greenleaf.
Greenleaf.
Did you go down to Greenleaf for the night?
Yep.
Oh, excellent. That's
awesome.
A nice shelter too. That's where we generally will do some like shakedown hikes and things. We'll hike up to that shelter, but it's nice. All the huts are nice. They're a nice respite, and they give you shelter when you're just passing through. And otherwise, as I get older, I'm less inclined to spend my night with 75 people in bunks. But it's reasonably comfy. Food's always good.
It's very welcoming. Yeah, it was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Very welcoming, and the people were fantastic. The crew that was there, putting on like dry clothes and then getting warm up and stuff like that instead of having to set up tent in the rain and stuff. It was very welcoming, and it was just a great time. We got to eat. We didn't have to make our own food. You had to make freeze-dried meals that are crap.
We just talked about those meals, man. They're sort of nasty,
right?
So good you can make.
Yeah, there's so many that you could like, and then you could dislike, and then all of a sudden you're disliking the one that you like.
Right.
It stinks, but awesome experience there, and then seeing the sunset on Lafayette, like watching the sun casting its rays on Lafayette when we were getting ready to go to bed. And we all go to bed early and stuff, and then you're right, with 75 people, and like I would have to say 90% of those people snoring like crazy was fun.
Right. Yeah, it's a whole experience in there. So that was your second night. So that brings you to a third day of hiking, and then you were done. Was that the plan?
Yep. Third day was Lafayette and beyond. What was it? Oh man, once again, I'm drawing blanks. I memorized this like
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, it's my neck of the woods. So it goes Lafayette, then Lincoln, and then Liberty and Flume, and then you
Yep.
dump back down to probably where you started, the Lincoln Woods trailhead.
Yeah. Clear skies, sun, beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
Phenomenal. Every
Yeah.
human being possible was out there.
I can imagine. Yeah, even in the rain.
Oh no, this was beautiful. This was clear and everything. This day was
Okay,
clear as heck.
gotcha. But did you have a lot of people on trail the first 2 days?
Not at all. Only the dedicated, man. Only the dedicated.
Only the demented.
Exactly. And that's what we said. We hit that one spot that right between was it Galehead, where it's like a waterfall. It was like a waterfall on the climb up. It was crazy. I'm trying to think of that spot.
Oh yes, fall. Okay. Oh, by Galehead.
Is it by Galehead?
I'm trying to think of where that is.
It was basically a waterfall, and we were just like, oh, this looks fun. Maybe
I'm drawing a blank on that one, but that's okay.
Oh, maybe it was up Garfield, but it might have been up Garfield. That steep section going up Garfield it was just a massive waterfall at the time, and like a lot,
like a cascade. I get you.
Yeah, but other than that, it was finishing down, going from Flume all the way down the Lincoln Woods Trailhead is a long 4 miles.
You have no idea. Yeah, it's the worst. That section never ends. It just goes on and on for sure. Just when you're absolutely exhausted, it's like, where is the end?
Correct. But at the end, we sit on Lincoln Woods and everybody's like resting. I'm putting my feet in the water because I had blisters galore, and I had a bunch of I was totally worn out. And Mark comes over and starts like chatting to me, and I just look at him, just like, dude, no pep talk. I'm good. I'm like, we got another mile left. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get this over with.
But fantastic experience, man. I got to admit, you guys, that's one tough hike, especially 2 days in the rain.
Yeah. Congrats, man. That's great. That's a nice accomplishment. And even with the rain, you still get a really good experience in terms of, or a good taste of what it's all about here in New England, or specifically in the White Mountains.
Yeah. I got to admit, you guys got it pretty good. Just thank you also for your search and rescue experience. I heard that one day they got massive calls on the Kingsman, right? Is that what it's called?
Kinsman?
Yeah.
Are you talking recent calls?
When we were out there, actually, it was the beginning of what was it? In the middle of May, I think.
In May,
somebody broken their leg or something.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, we've been to both sides of that mountain, so it's hard to say which one it could have been. But the Kinsmans themselves are really tough too. It's like, when you think that the Pemi Loop itself is challenging, or certain sections are really challenging, the Cannon it's Kinsman Ridge Trail essentially. So it's like 13 miles. It starts north at Cannon and ends south at Dilly Cliffs or Lost Fur, which is on the Kangamangas. But it's a really rugged, difficult 13 miles, like even harder than a lot of parts of the Pemi. So sometimes when we get calls out there, you sort of like cringe, like, oh God, this is going to be fun. But yeah, so we've had a couple out there. Like I said, it's like, it's been one every few days or so because of the slips.
Yeah. Could only imagine. And you guys are fantastic. I hear about you all the time. I follow you guys all the time. You guys do incredible work out there. So thank you for your volunteer efforts and support as well, because it's absolutely phenomenal to hear how strong you guys are out there.
Oh yeah. I won't mention the team that I'm on. I mean, it's not just our team; it's the entire state. The search and rescue community in the state is really pretty solid at the moment, and they just do amazing things for those in need in the woods, whether you're lost or injured or whatever it may be. So yeah, fishing game up here is incredible. But the teams, all the teams, are just top notch for sure.
Yeah, appreciate it once again.
Oh, I appreciate it too. Thanks.
Yeah. Other stuff to talk about. There has been a local, it's brought my attention actually yesterday from a local shoe dealership owner that a Roxbury man who's a local to us, probably like 30 miles away from where I live, has been missing in Colorado for over 7 days now. I gotta admit, that's pretty huge. That's pretty crazy.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Ann O'Brien of Roxbury has been missing for 7 days in Colorado after he tried to summit a 13,000 footer. Well, he did summit, and then he sent a message to his girlfriend or wife saying that he has summited and he's on his way down. And then after that, it was never heard of again. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to ask what they were doing for a response.
50 people every day searching around the area for them or for him. He's very familiar with the area. He has been up there many times. It's this like fourth time. They said it's this fourth time summiting that mountain. Yeah, they're trying everything. Average 30 to 55 volunteers since Saturday, and this family is asking anyone to join. He has epilepsy, so that kind of complicates things, especially when you run out of medication.
Right. Do they know where he was last, or any last known location or anything?
Let's see.
Cell phone pings or anything?
That's the one thing that I was wondering, because they said he had a GPS watch, so I would think that they would be able to locate it at least somewhat within the vicinity, but it hasn't said anything about that.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll find the fella. That's a long time.
Exactly. That's tough, and he's only 28 years old, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Local guy. I didn't even know he was local. I've heard about it, but I didn't even know he was local. And Roxbury is right in the middle of the Catskills and stuff.
Okay.
So, Stomp, you've had some recent crazy group activities up there. Well, you want to talk about that real quick? Because we had a same thing, but a little bit less, little tiny bit.
Group in terms of
the mass gathering that you had. What was that called?
Oh, geez. Oh my God. It's called the Rainbow Gathering. I'm going to pull up the script if you're going to talk about that stuff.
Please
Well,
do.
I mean, it was called the Rainbow Gathering. And apparently once a year, it's an annual gathering, and upwards of 5,000 to 10,000 people can show up. Wow. And it's more or less a loose-knit community that just show up and celebrate in the national forests nationwide. And they decided to choose New Hampshire this year. And it's ongoing now. And I believe the current number as of last week was about 5,000 people have shown up. And it's really funny. It's they don't seek a permit. They just show up. They don't feel as though they have to follow any regulations, federal or state. And I did some digging on it just for some research on my end, because you do have situations where there have been criminal complaints and drugs and rape or this and that. So I wanted to look into that to see if that was actually the case. And I didn't really do like a national search. But what I did find was that there's actually a lot of positive, in the sense that when they're done, they coordinate with Forest Service and local authorities to make sure that the place is like leave no trace perfect. And if you go to the actual Rainbow Family Gathering website, which I've done, it's really interesting. That's the first thing they will say. Like, this is how we operate, and we leave the place as spotless as we found it. But of course, they don't mention any negativity or anything like that. But I guess there are stories out there. So who knows? It's a story that's developing, but
it's still ongoing.
Oh yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know it was still going.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it is. I'd have to confirm that for sure, but I thought it was a lengthier time, not just a same weekend or anything like that. I mean, they show up and it takes a couple of weeks for them all to gather.
Yeah, that's true. So the funny
Pretty
thing
wild.
is that's why I bring that up, is because we had like a group of 60, only 60 people show up to hike at one of our areas called Giant Ledge. And
Okay.
group limit here is 10. Do you have a group limit in the White Mountains?
Yeah, I think it's 10 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was just really weird. And apparently the people that were leading the group were actual like hike leaders and leave no trace advocates and stuff like that. And you would think they would kind of like get a permit or something like that to do that if they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I
crazy.
don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I get the whole on trail. People don't seem to follow that too well up here. I got to be honest with you. Anecdotally, just from what I've observed, I understand the whole idea about trying to protect the trails and the vegetation and this and that, but I don't see how, 12 people are going to cause more damage than 10 or 7 or 5. I think the bigger issue when it comes to huge groups is that you're packing up the trailheads. You're forcing people to park on the sides of the highway. You're setting up other safety risks. I honestly don't think it's as much of an issue when it comes to the group size on trail. I got to be honest with you.
Correct. That's a good statement, and also the education.
Yeah.
The education
Sure.
of the group. You gotta educate the fellow people of, leave no trace and stuff like that, of staying off these certain areas, especially in your crazy habitats of where above tree line is very, very fragile.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get that. I mean, that would be the one caveat, but my frame of reference is always these experienced hikers that group up, whether it's hiking buddies or whatever else. If it was a group situation with inexperienced people or a mixture of experienced and inexperienced, then yeah, I'd qualify that comment.
Yeah. And you're right about the parking though. That is very tough.
Oh, yeah.
Giant Ledge here in the Catskills is a massive, beautiful ledge that overlooks the Catskills. About 5 or 6 different ledges that you can overlook. Beautiful viewing area. Very, funny people say is 1.2 miles is easy, but then you also have 1,200 feet of elevation gain in 1.2 miles. They underestimate that.
Yeah, sounds like a good challenge.
Yeah, the parking area can hold at least maybe 15 cars. So that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Being one of the most popular hikes.
I got to get out there.
Well, you were previously here. Fun. You were doing your ritual stuff here, right?
Yeah, as a kid, I had no choice in the matter. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it is. I remember just the rolling hills and the scenery was just absolutely phenomenal.
Correct. We don't have the peaks like you guys do, but we have like you said, the rolling hills, the amazing, nature aspect of just small, tiny trails, some places. And of course, what I talked about on your guys' episode, the plane crashes, we have those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many? I mean, why is that? How many do you have?
So me and my friend are very into that. And we think that there are over 40 in the Catskills still there.
I wonder why that is. I mean, we have some as well, but I don't think it's upwards of that many. Wow.
So our theory is that because of so close to New York City, and there's an old Air Force base called Stewart Air Force Base that's very popular. Sure. We have a massive rise in the mountains from the Hudson Valley and stuff like that. Like it's like 1,000 feet in less than a mile. So
gotcha.
Very unexperienced pilots will just keep coasting, and then they don't realize that they're off, a mile or two from the area that they're supposed to be in, and all of a sudden, 3,000 foot mountains are there.
Mm-hmm.
So they crash.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly. So most of them are little Cessnas and Pipers and stuff like that crash. But there's a couple of Air Force crashes and old B-52 bombers and B-25s and stuff. Super
cool. It's great exploring places and finding those wrecks.
Bushwhacking. That's what I know you like bushwhacking.
I do. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things for sure. I just like avoiding people. Just to be completely honest.
Correct. Correct. I agree with you on that one. So also, have you guys been experiencing the smoke still from Canada once in a while?
Heck, yeah, it's bad today. It's still as bad as it was. Perhaps not as bad as last weekend, but we still have it. It's definitely made an impact on my personal ability to get out there and really huff it when I'm running and things like that. It's just nasty, really thick air with maybe 5 mile visibility, if that, which is low for the whites. So it's been rough. Yeah,
same here, man. We get it. Drifts down into the valley, and we get the hardcore of it. I think the AQI the other like last week was like 270 around here.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
All right, so what's the status of it? Do you know?
There's still I forgot how many. Somebody said there's still 75 fires up in that area, still going, kind of strong, like 50% contained, not even.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's incredible. Somebody sent me a picture. I forget what app it was, but it showed the entire swath of Canada, and there were fires like through the entire region. It's just amazing. And of course, the wind patterns just blowing it right down to the northeast. Like, holy moly!
Yeah. It's crazy. When I traveled out west, I would think of like Canadian wildfires out in the Canadian Rockies and stuff like that, because it's a lot drier, stuff will catch. But I never thought about that up north in Ontario, even though they do have some big hardwoods and stuff like that, and some pines that'll catch fire quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is strange.
Yeah, like the terrain in Maine and stuff like that. It'll catch fire quickly, but it very rarely happens because it's always moist up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. The last weekend was really strange, though. It smelt as though it was a chemical component or like plastic or something. It was not your typical smoke from a wood burn. Very strange.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced this in your lifetime?
No, not at all. And I dig past the headlines, and I do a lot of research on this stuff, and there's certainly a lot of arson going on. There's no question about it. I mean, people getting arrested left and right. Whether that's explaining all of it, who knows? But it's weird, man. It's so strange.
I remember
it's very discouraging.
Yeah, I was hiking with people, and I was just like, I'm 40 years old, almost 41, and I can never remember this in my lifetime ever happening, ever saying like, oh, this is smoke from Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here.
Very, very strange. Also, another topic, I saw one of my friends sent me to this on Instagram. There was an amazing dog rescue in Canada, or in Colorado, sorry, in Colorado. Did you hear about that?
Was this the dog that was on the just below a little cornice right on a head wall?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Okay. I saw pictures. Yeah. Tell me about it. I saw a picture, but I don't know the full story about the rescue behind it.
So of course the guy is hiking up with his dog. They go up to, I think it was like 12,500 feet, which is crazy for a dog. I don't know why you would take a dog up that high.
Right.
I seriously, and the dog kind of like leaned over the ledge, and like you said, it was a cornice, and it kind of gave way just a little bit to the dog's front paws went down, and he slid down, but he did like the full dog, like crazy, like 4 legs, caught himself, and the dog just stayed there. Like, how awesome is that for the dog to just stay there?
That's amazing. Yeah. Cause when you do the pan out of the location where the dog was, that mountain was massive, and the dog was way at the top of the most precarious place.
Yep.
Holy moly.
They had to do some anchor points going from, I think it was the other end, and then bring it down, like kind of like, I forgot how they said it was facing east, and they had to do 2 different anchor points to get down to the dog, which was only about like 300 feet off of the cornice, but still, you're facing like 50, 60 degree angle, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, sure. Wow. Incredible rescue.
Yeah, rescued him and had the dog. They carried the dog in the backpack, which was the dog wasn't that big. It was probably like, I would say 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So rescued him off the side of a cornice, and all of a sudden the dog's safe and stuff like that in the middle of crazy snow conditions. And the funny thing is I find this is why dogs are smarter than humans. A human would have tried to get down from
that. Yeah, very possible.
They would have been like, I can self-rescue this.
Possible. Yeah. I mean, it's worth a shot. I mean, if you have an ice axe under that situation, holy moly.
Correct. This is crazy. All right. So good, nice little chat there, Stomp. I love it. I love chatting about recent topics, and there's a bunch of other topics. There was a couple rescues in the Catskills and stuff like that. Someone got lost and got back on the trail. Some woman fell off the side of a mountain, not a side of the mountain, but a viewpoint, and like fell 10 feet and hit her nose, broke her nose. They rescued her in a matter of 2 hours. So nothing big. I posted it. Nothing like crazy like you guys have.
Yeah. So what's your method of finding these stories? Is that something you're willing to reveal? Because I have a method and I'm willing to share my method. It's actually pretty simple.
Yeah. So I have a friend of mine that sends me stuff once in a while. And then I also get DEC, which is New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. They have a week in review stuff. So I get they send me week in review stuff of rescues and ranger activities.
Oh, great. Yeah. So you've got a lot of content coming there. That's cool. Yeah. What I usually do, like a couple days before the show, I will go onto a search engine and type in, first I'll type in hiker and then click news, and it pulls up all the latest stories about hikers, and it's generally rescues, or it's somebody trying to tackle like a 10,000-mile hike and whatever. It's some grand story like that. And then I'll type in hikers, and that's where the groups are getting in trouble. So that's my method usually, and it works out pretty well for national stories anyway. Then here we have the official reports from Fish and Game that come out after the fact. So we just generally just talk about those reports and stick to the public information. And Mike does all the speculating. I try to stay away from all that stuff, being in SAR myself.
I understand. I mean, you guys have some great stories up there, and Fish and Game does a great detail of breaking those down, those stories of what happened and what could lead up to what couldn't have happened if they were prepared. But most of them are accidents usually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, occasionally you get the reckless folks that are up there doing things way demonstrably way over their skill level. So in those cases, some of those folks get billed, but generally they're no fault of their own type of situations, which is good.
Yeah. So once again, talking about search and rescue stuff, Stomp has his own podcast with Mike called Slasher. Sounds like a search and rescue podcast. Been following them for a long time, ever since you guys been started also. And, I really enjoy it. So check out their podcast if you ever have the chance to. If you listen to my podcast, you should probably listen to theirs because theirs is better.
I appreciate it. Yours is great too.
It's you guys, your chemistry is phenomenal. I need a co-host. I really do need a co-host.
Yeah, I don't have any advice for you.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could do auditions or something. I don't know. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are interested.
I'll have to see. But all right. So once again, episode 82 of Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Thank you for joining. I would like to thank the monthly supporters, Darren White, Vicky Ferrer, John Comiskey, Jim C., Michael Bogner, David Mead, Matt Smith, and Cher Klein. Also, thank you to Outdoor Chronicles Photography for being sponsor of the show. Molly from Outdoor Chronicles Photography specializes in adventure elopement and adventure couples photography in the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. Also, don't forget your pets. They're just important, like Stomp's cats. She is also an officiant for Getting Married and a licensed guide, so don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, have you ever wanted to learn more about hiking and backpacking, or even brush up some of your old skills, brush up on some of your new skills in the backcountry? Check out Trailbound Project, a hiking and backpacking school that Scott and Joe have amazing skills from New Jersey search and rescue teams for old skills of hiking and backpacking as well. Check them out on their website and all social media platforms. They have stuff going on every weekend. They will help you out with anything you need hiking or backpacking. So, Stomp, what are you drinking, buddy?
I'm enjoying a fizzy cranberry drink with some vodka in there. So it's nice and tasty. I've actually made a purposeful effort to cut back on beer because I have gained weight because of it. So I'm starting to backpedal a little bit. Oh,
nice,
boy.
Nice. Did Miss Stomp make that? I remember Mrs. Stomp always makes you the good stuff.
Oh, no, she wasn't around at the time, so I just whipped it together quick. But she does. She used to be a bartender, actually, at the original Woodpeckers right down here. I mean, the Woodpecker Studio is the name that we give the studio for our podcast up here up in Thornton, New Hampshire. But the actual Woodpeckers was a bar, billiard room, best pizza around, and she used to sling drinks there. So
nice.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Good to have those talented bartenders up there and to whip you something real quick and be like, ooh, this is strong. Nice.
Oh, absolutely. Now, what you got?
I'm having a Awestruck Blackberry. They just came out with this. Awestruck is a hard cider from Sydney, New York, probably about 10 miles from where I live. So
okay,
fantastic stuff.
Hard cider. Yeah, that's good stuff. It's nice.
Yeah, I have to send you some. I'll send you a hard cider from Awestruck.
Oh, that'd be excellent. Something new to.
Yeah, definitely. Especially from our area, you guys got some crazy breweries and stuff like that up there galore, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty healthy craft beer scene. There are a couple meaderies as well, which are pretty cool. That's sort of a new thing that's popping up, but it's mostly craft beer that's taking over the world. We have at least half a dozen that are 5-star, just really, really great. So, and new ones popping up all the time. So, yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah,
all over the place. They're happening. Nice. So what have you done previously? I remember you saying you did the road race, the Mount Washington road race.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That dominated the last 3 months of my life. When I found out that I got into the lottery for the Mount Washington road race, which was the Father's Day weekend, I just dropped hiking like a hot potato and just started running. And it was a really wild time. I haven't done that race in several years because like I said, I had hip issues. I had a hip replacement, hip dysplasia. It just came in the middle of my 40s and just threw me for a hardcore loop. I couldn't get over it. So here I am with a hip replacement and my left hip is doing fine, but it's like a ticking time bomb. You can tell. I think I had a chip on my shoulder and I just wanted to do it one more time just for fun, just to say, I can do it. And I did it again, even though I had a hip replacement and went through all this nonsense. And so 3 months later, did the race, came in like 20 minutes slower than I was in my heyday, which was fine. I was anticipating coming in around 2.5 hours and I came in around 2:24. And the most interesting part about this race though, this time was we were riding this weather pattern that we've been seeing. And June up on Mount Washington, which is 6,288 feet, can be midwinter. Okay. So, last year, I think it was, they cut the race in half down. It's 7.6 miles up the auto road, 4,000-ish elevation gain. Last year, they cut it in half to the 4-mile mark. And we were thinking, oh boy, they're probably going to cut it this year because of the weather. Last minute, I was shocked. I mean, every single time I would look at the weather, the precipitation was going up by 0.5 inches. So we reached the point where it was basically expecting 2 inches of rain in that locale where the race is, and the race it wasn't canceled. They just let the race go. So I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be a tough day. And it was a tough day. So, they cut back on the water a bit. So you had to carry your own water. 1,300 people running up in monsoon rain and drizzle. And at the top, the wind chill was, I would say it was in the low 30s, because when I came through the finish line, it was still rain, but it was just this wind burn that was freezing the skin of my face, and you had to get out of it. So it was a wild day, hardcore.
Wow.
Yeah.
7.6 miles, 4,000 feet again.
I'm guessing on the elevation, but I recall it being in the 4,000 range, from the start of the auto road at the Great Glen Trails, which is on Route 16, to the top of the summit. Yeah, it was a pretty cool time. And guess how fast the winners are? They come in at 60 minutes.
Whoa.
Can you believe that? Literally, these people are running 7.5 miles an hour up a 22% grade. It's unbelievable.
60 freaking minutes.
Yeah, and the world record for that race is 56 minutes by a Kiwi named Jonathan Jonathan Wyatt. He was one of my big heroes back in the day. Like, this dude was just so great to follow and watch. So 56 minutes has not been broken. Wow.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's amazing. So super cool.
What was your time, if you don't mind? What was your time?
Oh, my time? Oh, it was 2:24. So 2 hours, 24 minutes. Several years ago, when I was in, pre-hip business, I came in at 2 hours, and then the next year I came in around 1:50. So 1 hour, 50 minutes for me. Oh yeah, I'm super proud of that. And for not having run for the last several years, coming in at 2:24 is, I'm happy.
Nice.
I'm totally happy. Yeah.
You guys are crazy.
Yeah. And do you know about what happened with Mike?
Oh, I heard about his big toe, right?
Yeah, Mike is the co-host for the podcast that we're on, and he stubbed his toe about a week or two beforehand, so he couldn't really bear weight that would be required for running up there. That was a super bummer, but he showed up and supported us at the launch.
That's pretty wicked. How many people did you say that did that? 1,600?
1,300.
13. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Dodge 'em cars when it starts. Holy moly.
Nice. Well, congratulations, man. That's a hell of accomplishment.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel really good about it. Super proud about it. Old dog's got some tricks left.
How old are you, Stomp? If you don't mind.
53. And
Jesus.
I've been saying 54 because I'm getting old, and I totally forgot what my age was for the last several months, but whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it was my mom that corrected me recently. She's like, "No, you're actually 53." I'm like, "What?"
Hey. That's good. Well, congratulations. That's an incredible accomplishment.
Thanks, brother. You been out hiking?
God, I'm trying to think of what we did. So a couple weeks back, we did Overlook Mountain. We did the longest day hike, which was pretty neat.
Oh, gotcha.
Sunset hike on Overlook Mountain was fantastic. I think that was the last really one. I did some local hikes, but nothing too crazy like normal. But I was looking to get out this weekend, but we had like severe thunderstorms and rain, flash flooding possible. I mean, you had that up there too, correct?
Oh, sure. Tons of it.
Yeah. My wife and I wanted to get out and do like an overnighter and complete 2 of her peaks on some bushwhacks that we wanted to complete, and it didn't really work out. So we didn't want to go out in the rain, especially me setting up freaking tent in the rain after what I've been through. My feet are just starting to peel, by the way. I don't know.
Oh, from the blisters? Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to go out, but we went out and shop local. We went and checked out the local towns, of course, supported our local businesses, which is what you should do all the time.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So I got the Catskill News volunteer, anywhere and anywhere possible. 3500 Club. We have the Catskills Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club Visitor Center. Stomp, you know any local volunteers you want to plug into your area?
Oh, it's a big help for us. The AMC stewards, they are, they give up their time and they will set up tents at the major trailheads, and they will intervene and just gently educate people that are coming up trail that may not. They're profiling for sure. They're like, okay, keep ready. So so they'll give them a gentle little education about this. Like, do you know where you're going? What's your pack? It looks, it's a lot colder up there than it is down here, et cetera, et cetera. So the trail stewards are fantastic. Then there's trail maintenance as well. A lot of that's done with local groups, AMC and U.S. Forest Service. So those two are fantastic. And then, of course, if you're local to New Hampshire, geez, look into one of the search and rescue teams. We can always use help.
Phenomenal search and rescue teams. You guys are beasts, by the way.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, appreciate it.
So yeah, any like we said, my friend was on, Dick Vincent was on the last episode, and we talked about, spending 8 hours of your 365 days a year to volunteer for trails can make a massive difference.
Yeah.
You have so many people who love to hike, but one day could make a huge difference in your trails, can make the trails a whole big difference in your experience and stuff somewhat with those maintained trails. I try to get the message out as much as I can of volunteering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah. They have trail adopter programs as well. I'm not sure, do they do that in the Catskills?
Yes, we do. We have you can adopt a trail all over this place with New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. Forgot about that. Thank you for plugging that in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that makes sense to me, because if you're passionate about a trail that you're adopting, you're going to go out there and put the time in to fix it and fix water bars and everything else. I think that's a really neat way to approach the issue of maintaining these trails. We have a sizable number of abandoned trails and some trails that are slated for the chopping block or reroutes and all kinds of stuff. So there's always stuff going on with the trails, but they always need help, especially after big storms with the blowdowns and everything else.
Yeah, especially after the blowdowns. And we have a couple groups that do that right after, kick in right after those storms and stuff like that. And it's very once a day, a year can help significantly on the trails.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah.
Well, good. Thanks for plugging some of that in. I wrote that down. We'll go in the show notes.
Oh, sure.
Like Mike says.
Go to the show notes.
All right. So, I'm going to skip the Catskill Mountain history. I was looking up, I was going to ask you about a certain person, a certain mountain you have in the New Hampshire area called Tecumseh.
Okay.
So I know that was of a Native American heritage. Tecumseh was once a chief, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So they also had a general in the Civil War named, I forgot what is, George Tecumseh, something like that. And I recently read about him in one of the books, and I was just like, "Ooh, Tecumseh! I know that. That's one of the easiest hikes in New Hampshire. One of the ones you should start on, correct?"
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a 4,000. I think it's just over 4,000. So it's in terms of the 4,000 footer list, which there are 48 of them over 4,000 feet. That's probably the next to the lowest. This Mount Jackson. I honestly forget the exact numbers, but they're lower in terms of the 4K club. Not to say that it's easy though. Tecumseh is an ass kicker. It's like, just picture one straight direct line up to a ridge. It's literally, you can look ahead and see half a mile ahead of you, and it's probably a good 20-30% grade, and then you hit this ridge for a little bit, and then it bolts up at like 40% grade for a quarter mile, and then you hit the summit. It's an ass kicker.
Nice.
Ooh. Yeah.
Well, good.
For sure.
Yeah. So I was reading about Tecumseh, and I was just like, well, George Tecumseh, he was a Civil War general who was favored. I gotta look up, like I said, I didn't fully go into this because I knew we were going to be talking a lot. We're already an hour into this, which is crazy.
Yeah.
For me, and I was just like, well, does that have any related incident to New Hampshire? And then I looked up, of course, Tecumseh, and it was of Native American heritage and stuff like that. So that was pretty neat to also look up.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it wasn't the Civil War. Yes, William Tecumseh Sherman of the Civil War, educator, author, and served as general in the Union Army during the Civil War. He was came into the Catskills one time to go into the Catskill Mountain House, which is, if you ever look that up, Stomp, it is one of the biggest places in the 1900s, early 1900s, that sit on a ledge of the Catskills and overlook the Hudson Valley. And every human being wanted to go there at that time, mid 1800s, late 1800s. It's a phenomenal place. All the rich went there. All the people were just like, at this time, it was horse and buggy. It took like 7-8 hours to get from the river of the Hudson Valley to this spot, which was only maybe 20 miles, and sometimes the horses didn't want to do it, so they had to walk. So he was apparently at the Catskill Mountain House. And like I said, I was reading the book and I was like, oh crap, Tecumseh. It was like, what a coincidence that Stomp is going to be on the show and talking about a mountain in New Hampshire.
Yeah, that is funny. By the way, the Hudson River Valley, man, that's some rugged beauty there. Last time I was out in that area, I was just stunned by the cliffs that abut the actual river itself. It's amazing.
Massive river.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Such a great place.
They got Breakneck Ridge and some other spots down there. I haven't really been down there that much, but I know it's, like you said, the cliffs are fascinating.
Incredible. Yeah, they're massive.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot.
So yeah, that's sort of the history. So go into some sponsors really quick. If you're looking for new gear in the Catskills, say no more. Camp Catskill in Tannersville has all your hiking needs. From spikes and snowshoes to moisture wicking shirts, they have all the essentials for your hiking gear in the Catskills. Also, they have a website, so check them out. You can order from their website. Tannersville, Catskill, anywhere you go, stop in Tannersville, please, because that is an awesome spot and they have everything. They also have Catskill memorabilia, which is fantastic. I have a Fire Tower shirt that is absolutely phenomenal. So check them out. Also, if you're ready to hit the trails, make sure you take the scenic route. Our guides are helping you with your goals, big or small. Check out Scenic Route Guiding and Gear Rentals on Instagram and Facebook. They are in the Catskills and the Adirondack Mountains. Also, if you mention the podcast, you can get 10% off. Use the code word Mountain Lion. What's up with the mountain lions in New Hampshire, man? You got mountain lions up there all over the place?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a myth. I've never seen it, but occasionally the stories come out. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. We definitely have larger cats, like in terms of foxes and things of that nature, but and bears, of course. But I've not seen one.
I know. Yeah, and in the winter, you hike a lot in the winter because there's less people, correct?
Yeah. I guess you could say that, but I also just love the winter anyway. I love cold weather, and I love bushwhacking in particular is really beautiful in the winter. And it's nice to be able to follow your track back out and not worry about navigating so much when you're out there. But yeah, winter's a whole other beast. But
it's the best time. It's the best time to hike.
Yeah, totally. But in terms of animal activity, you'll see deer. You'll see moose. Moose, what are they called? Where they lay. I forget the name for that, but you'll see their little pits that they rest in at night or whenever. So those are easy to find. Bear are inactive pretty much during the winter. But yeah, I've seen plenty of bear, and I've seen plenty of moose too. But they're always from a distance or just in the periphery of your eye, and then they bolt. They're gone.
Yep.
When they realize you're there. So, but beyond that, yeah, nothing else really major going on there.
You know, what's funny is people claim that there are mountain lions here, but I've never seen a single mountain lion track on any of my hikes whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, nor have I.
Yeah. But I went out west. I seriously went out west and did a slot canyon, and I saw mountain lion tracks.
Ooh, that's interesting. What slot canyon? See, we're getting off track here because slot canyons to me are fascinating. They seem so
dude.
deadly. Oh man.
Speaking of that, you know, the funny thing is, we're going to get onto that your episode in a second, but I was watching Slot Canyon floods today, like some areas that we've been to and some flooding. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and it happens so fast.
Yeah,
I mean, it terrifies me, the whole thought.
We went out to Utah and we went to a spot called I think it was the Red Canyon, right outside of Orderville, right outside of Zion. And that was that's where I saw the bobcat, Jesus, the mountain lion tracks. And, you know, I had my hand up to it and it was bigger than my hand. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is real. This happened within the past 24 hours.
Yeah.
Where did you guys go out in the slot canyons? Where'd you visit?
I've honestly never been. I have been out west into the desert and stuff, but I never made it to a slot canyon personally. It's big regret. You know, that was a long time ago too. That's like just a year after high school. So I'd have to dredge up the memories for that trip. But
you and Mrs. Stomp got to go, man. There's still time.
Oh, sure there is. Yeah, I think if we did get a chance to go out west, we'd probably have to hit Joshua Tree and the Grand Canyon. You know, those beautiful places. But I'm just fascinated by just the desert in general. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I gotta agree. We went to we went to Buckskin Gulch, which is the largest, deepest slot canyon in the world, and absolutely phenomenal. You know, we did 7 miles, and you know, everybody talks about the Narrows in Zion, you know, but it's full of people. We didn't see people for 2 or 3 hours in this place. And the slot canyon was, you know, maybe at that times 5 feet wide and 300-foot tall cliffs. You know, it's just been fascinating.
Wow.
Right next to the wave too. Everybody, you've heard of the wave, of course, right?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Seriously, you walk down the same exact path and everybody goes to the wave and you go to Buckskin Gulch and you're the only ones there. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do how did you prep for it? You check the weather like 300 times before you even put one foot in there?
304 times, actually, you know, like even looking, what was it, like 60 miles away, I looked to see if there was rain or stuff like that. Cause I've heard, you know, up in the mountains, you can get, you know, up in Zion, there could be like rain far up like 30, 40 miles away, but it'll still come down, you know, no rain at all in Zion.
Yeah.
And you'll still get that flooding, that flash floods. And I was paranoid as heck. But
I bet
you got to be the same thing with us in the mountains here. You know, they're like, oh yeah, you know, there could be, you know, rain 10 miles away, but all of a sudden that rain shifts and it comes to you and it's a thunderstorm.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Terrifying.
But yeah, crazy stuff. But you got to go out there.
Averse. Yeah. I'll get out there eventually, but I'm totally risk averse to stuff like that as I get older. It's funny.
Correct. Correct. All right, so let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
Stomp and physical therapy for hiking. So, Stomp, thank you for joining me on Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. We keep in touch quite often, and you know, I admire you, and your podcast has inspired me to do my own podcast. So, thank you very much.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, that's awesome. You know, thank Mike.
Yeah. You seem like the Mike is the straightforward one. You are the one that is happy and fun and stuff like that. I hate to say that. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah. You know, Mike's got his own dry sense of humor.
Yeah. You'll do your sense of humor, and he'll be like, "Jesus, Stomp, not again."
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Well, once again, check out Stomp and Mike on their podcast. Slasher, which is sound like a search and rescue podcast. Awesome stuff in the Great White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's fun. So, Stomp, why don't you give a little background about yourself, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm in New Hampshire now, but I'm a New Hampshire transplant from Massachusetts. So I grew up in Massachusetts in the notorious city of Lynn, the city of sin. It's an old mill town city with a history of fire and crime and all kinds of fun stuff. So I made it out alive, and graduated in '87 from Lynn, and yeah, I mean, I started hiking when I was 13. My folks dragged me out kicking and screaming to go do a small trail up here. It's Mount Chicora, which is a beautiful mountain. But I mean, I was just a video game kid. I just wanted to play video games. But they dragged me out, and that planted the seed for hiking, which would later come to fruition in my life. But yeah, I mean, I graduated in '87, went to Wentworth Institute, got an associate's in computer engineering, which I don't even know why I did that. I was totally following the crowd, just no idea what I wanted to do after high school. What a waste, but it looks cool on my resume. So 10 years later, I graduated from PT school. So I graduated physical therapy in 1997 from UMass, and the rest is history. So I've been practicing 25 years now. I've done a little bit of everything in terms of, like a good several years of almost every mode of physical therapy except for pediatrics. So outpatient, home care, you name it. I've pretty much done all of it. So beyond PT, the hiking thing came back into my life several years back, and my wife and I decided to move up to New Hampshire because we had an opening window where we said, hey, listen, the kids are getting older and they're going to discover their peers. So let's get the hell out of here while we're able to. And it worked out. It was a perfect prediction because the girls are great, but they were living their lives now. So we just bit the bullet and came up here, and I started working at a long-term care clinic up here in Franconia when we first moved up. And I'll never forget, it was New Year's Eve, 7 years ago, New Year's Eve. Went for an interview, drove up. I got hired like that. And I don't, it may have been maybe not so much my resume, but it was probably, we need the help, much more so. Because New Hampshire has always struggled for long-term care help and just nursing and rehab help in general. And now it's even worse post-COVID. You have no idea. It's a nightmare. So yeah, we moved up, and we moved up because of the mountains. And that's when I fell into search and rescue, just because I don't know. I love giving back to the community. And as I'm getting older, I'm not hiking as much. So it's sort of honing in on doing things like that, smaller, more intermittent things such as search and rescue, as opposed to get there hiking every day. I'm just not like that anymore. So that's more or less my life in a nutshell. I mean, I spent a lot of time doing audio as well. So I'm sort of jack of all trades, I guess. But my passion is music production and entertainment. I was in a band for 10 years back in Boston. We did really well. And then I fell into production, producing music for other bands, singer-songwriters, and I still produce a bit, but my current thing is just spinning music. And it's really funny because back in junior high school and even earlier, late elementary school, I would get cassette mixes from local DJs, and I'd beg them, like, you got to give me a mix. I was just always passionate and in love with, funk and electronic music, and just the ability of somebody to transition one song into another always fascinated me. And that's what I do now. It's a hobby. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Passion is great to follow, of course, and so what kind of got you into physical therapy, going from your computer tech kind of area to physical therapy? That's a big, weird jump.
It is. It made sense though. It's like after the after the 2 years wasted at Wentworth, and I won't say it was wasted, it made me learn how to be a student, because I really came out of the Lynn public school systems not knowing how to study and succeed in school. So I will credit Wentworth for that. It got my act together for what I did in PT school. I really wasn't ready for PT school, but after Wentworth, I had always been into just not so much team sports, but individual sports, like or small teams like tennis or hiking or rollerblading, biking, that type of thing. And I was always very fit. And then it occurred to me that, oh, you know what, I should. It was just a thought, like, oh, I should look into doing something like athletic training or this and that. And they had a program at UMass Lowell, and I signed up and I got in, and I was shocked I got in, because again, I wasn't the greatest student, and so I was always fairly athletic, so it just seemed like a good fit. I was fortunate for that, because I know a lot of people struggle trying to figure out what the hell they want to do with life, but this has been really a blessing for me, for sure.
Nice. So kind of the passion. Did you have like problems with your own self that you were just like, man, this would be great to pass on to other people and stuff like that, to get into physical therapy?
Yeah, to a point. I've got quirky things. My knees have always been a little funky. I've got this thing called Osgood Schlatters, which is just the big knobby bump at the top of my tibias. So I was always trying to get rid of those problems and manage them so that I could go rollerblade for 20 miles or whatever. So yeah, I think that's part of it, for sure. That's a really good question. So you're always self-diagnosing and trying to improve things. Yeah, I think that's a great question, and part of the transition to PT. Yeah.
And at this time, being, you said it in 1997 and stuff like that, we didn't have Google search or what is it? To do this kind of stuff. So you actually needed hands-on therapy.
Sure. Yeah. And that's, speaking of that now, I mean, a lot of people can just do a search and get fairly decent information out there in a general sense. Obviously, when it comes down to, say, injury rehab or surgical rehab, you can do that online. You got to go to a therapist and have somebody's hands on you to look at the minute, details that you're not going to get out of a generalized search, for sure. But that being said, when it comes to like a topic like this, like hiking and physical therapy, I encourage people, do your research. There's a lot of information out there that can be really helpful if you're just looking to avoid the copay. I tell people, look it up. I'll give people pointers all the time. So yeah.
What's your practice that you work at?
Well, this is sort of interesting. Do you want to get into a lengthy story? Because I haven't told anybody.
Go right ahead, sir.
All right. So,
and this is why I brought you on here, because I wanted to get your word out and stuff like that, of just not Stomp from Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, but your physical care, your kind of passion.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't get to talk about this stuff because Mike's always hogging the microphone. So,
nice.
Yeah, so I can't get a word in edgewise. Geez. Yeah. So when I moved up to New Hampshire, I transitioned from home care into long-term care, and after 2 years in Franconia, I moved over to the Grafton County Nursing Home, which is one of the premier county nursing homes up here. And then, of course, COVID hit, and it just changed so dramatically. It got to the point back in 2021, I think it was, where they got into this vicious cycle where they didn't have enough staff, so they couldn't really have new patients come into the building. So what I found was that my hours were just going down and down and down until I finally had to just leave. I couldn't go there anymore. I had to find or reinvent myself or find a new position. So I opened up my own private thing. So I'm doing concierge, which is basically I'll meet you wherever you want to meet. Fine, let's meet there at the park or whatever, and we'll do some exercise. Or Yeah, and for a period of time as well, I had a small practice that was open, but it just wasn't busy enough uh, to really justify keeping it going. And right now, I'm doing, check this out, teletherapy, as well as long-term care for the elderly. So it's totally different. Telehealth is wild. I was a huge skeptic of telehealth, but when you get the right person on the other side of the screen with the patient, it works. It works. It absolutely works, and it's a good solution these days when there's no staff. I mean, I would go to this clinic. It's 2 hours away though, so I can't commute 4 hours to help these people out. So we do it over the internet. Interesting times.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's the clinic? What I want to tag them in here just in case.
Oh, sure. It's Alpine Health. They're down in Keene, New Hampshire. So yeah, I'm helping them out, and again, I do my private solo stuff. I just had somebody inquiring about it the other day, but they're on the other side of the state. So, you can go to. I might as well reveal it. It's Jamie Bernard, PT.
There we go. I knew your name.
There it goes. The Batman moment. Bruce Wayne Batman. It's out the window. Yeah. So it's JAIME Bernard PT.com. Yeah. Or at proton.com. So yeah, I'm accessible. Or you can just direct message Stomp.
Right? Stomp, direct message Stomp from Slasher Podcast, man.
Yeah, he'll set you up with some good stretches.
Exactly. And being, not saying that I'm 40 years old, but I've had back problems. I have a superimposed bulging disc.
Yeah.
And getting into, therapy is tough. Like you said, this nowadays it's just the weights and people wanting to do it and people passionate about doing it is very, very thin. It's definitely very thin. So having someone, especially up where you live, where hiking is the top of the list is great. So that's why I want to get the word out and stuff like that. If people are going to New Hampshire, people live in New Hampshire, can again reach you and contact you, or just even listen to this podcast or your podcast, check it out.
Yeah, anytime.
A little bit into the physical therapy stuff. So pre-hike stretches, what do you recommend for pre-hike stretches?
Okay, so I have to really dive into this one a little bit because there is a body of research that says that there's evidence, let's just put it that way, that if you're stretching for, say, an event or an activity, that there is a chance that your risk of injury can go up. So that's one thing that people should know about. So anecdotally, and just looking at some of the studies that are out there and things, I separate stretching from my activity. I stretch. I think stretching as I get older is one of the most important things, no question about it. Strength, absolutely. Stretching, you lose that flexibility, you're done. There's studies out there that say step length is connected with mortality, and a lot of that is because of just poor flexibility in muscles and everything else. So flexibility is huge, but I disconnected from events. I think the warm-up period for an event, like take for instance the Mount Washington road race, do the activity that you're doing, but at a very gentle, gradual clip or pace, just to warm up the muscles. After that warm-up period, some gentle stretching is fair game, but I wouldn't go crazy with really ballistic stretching before an event, to be honest with you. Does that answer your question?
Correct. Yeah. I've heard of stuff like that as well. Too much stretching before hiking or a significant event can cause an injury. Yeah.
You're stretching cold muscles, and that's always the risk. So warm up is the key. Warm them up, stretch them real gentle and mild before an event or a hike. But in general, I think you have to start to just build a routine that is a full body, spend 15, 20 minutes a day or every other day stretching everything, because joints in your body have a specific dialed in range of motion that they usually like to work in. And if those muscles that surround those joints are lacking flexibility, it impacts the ability of the joint to move, and then all of a sudden you're ending up with joint contraction and all kinds of stuff. So flexibility is huge.
So I'm guessing that yoga is that one of you recommend yoga? I mean, not before, but pre-hike all the time.
It's not my cup of tea, but certainly that's a great combination of stretching and strengthening, core strength. It's a fantastic activity. I guess what I tell people to try to mix it up. Don't do the same activity all the time. Try to do the cross training approach. I'm doing the quote fingers. I don't know if people, cross training. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but the idea is a thing for sure. Just mixing up your activities and avoiding injury by not doing the same thing all the time, because it does lead towards overuse injuries and things of that nature. You got to be really careful with that. And flexibility can sort of curb or mitigate the risk of an overuse injury to a point, but you have to be aware of that. So mixing up your activities. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So like hiking is not like the same as running, as lifting, stuff like that. Do you have any like recommendations for like exercises for hiking? Not saying preconditioned, but when you're at home doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't answer your question, I think. So let me go back to that whole stretching thing. So let me tell you what I would suggest for stretching. When it comes to hiking in particular, I see it all the time. If I assess somebody's posture, they have a sort of a protruding belly, an arched back, and that is related to the overuse of the quadriceps and the hip flexors in the front of the hip. So you get into this thing where you're using these powerful muscles to push you up the hill, but if you're not stretching them, it's going to alter your posture. So for stretches for hiking, it's critical to look into it and search it. Just look for quadricep stretching, hip flexor stretching, IT band. You've probably heard of this monster. Yeah. This is the one that runners suffer with all the time. So iliotibial band or IT band stretching. Those three will really do a great job at limiting the risk of knee problems as well as lower back problems. Because again, when you're over, your hip flexors and quads are dominant or overworked, they will alter your posture in your back, which can lead to other issues. So those are really important. And then of course your calf stretching as well. I'll tell people to do a series of stretches for the calves, which involves 6 positions for one side. And it's basically 3 with your knees straight and then 3 with your knee bent. But you're also doing additional with your foot angled left and right to get these alternate muscles called the posterior tibialis and the peroneals. So definitely look into that, because when you lack flexibility in your ankle, that can lead to a whole host of issues as well, namely, plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis. So those are the top 5. So hip flexors, quads, stretching the lower back muscles, of course, to counter that arch if you do have that, and then your calves. Those are critical. So
do you have any another your post hike stretches? Do you have any recommendations for that? Because that's when everything's warmed up and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Do you have any post hike recommendations?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing, but I will add in just gentle lower back stretches as well. You may have seen laying on your back and doing double knee to chest. I also highly encourage people to do what they call hook lying. So you're laying on your back with your knees bent. So your heels are closer to your buttocks, and from there you're rocking your knees to the side and holding for 30 to 60 seconds or so. So yeah, they call that hook lying, but for lumbar or lower back rotation, you've got all these muscles. You've got these massive muscles in the lower back as well as the smaller muscles between each segment of the spine. So by doing that rotation, you're getting into some of these harder to get groups. And honestly, for most folks, you should be able to get those knees almost down to the floor when you're dropping them to the side. So really important.
Not for me.
I know, man. It's hard.
I got to stretch more, man. Every morning I have to do, what is it called? Oh, it's where you arch your back and you're laying on the floor. Damn, what is,
A pelvic tilt is the opposite
yes.
of the arch. If you're doing a pelvic tilt, that means that you're flattening the back towards the floor. And I'm making the sound like I'm squeezing my stomach.
You're right.
Yeah, it's super important.
It's, it's the stretch is to basically take that bulging disc and to push it out, like to go like that. I forgot what it's called.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you have that arch back, that goes towards the pressure on the back of the lumbar discs. So what you're trying to do is to flatten the back, not 100% because that would be abnormal, but you want a mild little arch in your back to take the pressure off of the discs. And that's again what I see the biggest problem being with hikers. If I work with a hiker, I'll have them stand up against the wall so I can check out their posture, and I'll ask them, okay, put your fingers between the wall and your lumbar spine, and generally there's like a huge 2 or 3 inch gap, so you're flapping your fingers back there, but that your body should be able to touch your fingers. I mean, maybe an inch at the most. So
wow.
it's pretty wild. So that's what I mean. So if you stretch out your quads and your hip flexors, that allows you to suck in your stomach, flatten your back, and get into a normal anatomically neutral posture. It's wild. I mean, it sounds a little overwhelming, but that's why sometimes if you're really in pain or having problems, then you should see a therapist in person other than doing a general search, because it is pretty overwhelming when you start looking at all the pieces that are connected. And then that's what it is. Everything's connected. It's that they call it like a kinematic chain, everything, every muscle top to bottom. It's wild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like when I had problems with my back, I was in extreme pain. My sciatic nerve. I had no clue. What it was. I would search stuff online and I would get no answers. And finally, I went to see a physical therapist. And he told me, he's like, you have a superimpulsed bulging disc. You need to do this, this, and this. And this guy was actually a pretty big dickhead, not to be an asshole. But like, he's like, you're never going to recover. And I'm just like, oh, well, thanks for the encouragement, buddy. I really appreciate it. So
those are the worst people.
Yeah, definitely did recover, stretching and stuff like that, strengthening your back, strengthening your core is what helped me out, is definitely what helped me out. Posture, stuff like that. So let's get on to another question. Also, for tough terrain, with the New Hampshire has some crazy tough terrain. What do you recommend for like improving your balance for tough terrain? Do you have any stretches or, exercises?
All right. See, all these questions, I read the questions before and I'm like, damn, this is like an hour per question, because balance is my favorite topic, because I deal with Lily and falls, people that have fallen have balance problems. So for like a high level athlete or just a recreational hiker, obviously the strength is important. The stronger the muscles are around the ankles and the knees and everything else, that really helps with your balance. But balance is so complicated in the sense that it's a multi-system function of your body. So you have your eyesight. Your eyes help you with your balance. Your ears, the inner ear, the vestibular system, it senses dynamic motion. So for instance, I'm walking and I whip my head around and look behind me. If my vestibular system's poor, I may lose my balance. But if it's fine, I'll be like a ballerina. I can spin. I'm good. So then you have your sensation in your feet and proprioception, which is the ability of your brain to know where the joints and the position of your body parts are. So you've got all this stuff going on. So it's a tricky question, but the easiest thing I can say for people if they want to improve balance is to probably just get on either a thick foam pad and do a single leg stance with your eyes closed, and try to do that for about a minute.
Yeah.
If you can hold that for a minute, I mean, that's honestly one of the hardest things you can do for somebody that's more athletic and less of a medically involved clientele. So that's your first go-to. Do something challenging like that. Eyes closed. Have people push you while you're on the foam pad with your eyes closed. Okay, so that's like the extreme example. Simpler things you can do. It goes back to cross training and doing different things. I think that the biggest problem with hiking is that it's like this linear motion and it's not stimulating your inner ear, the vestibular system. So for instance, if you're trying to think of a good example, the vestibular, like I said, it's stimulated when you're turning your head, maybe tennis, for instance, or something of that nature, or any activity where you're changing directions, hockey, basketball, things like that. Any of those motions that are really stimulating the inner ear of your head will naturally improve your balance. So when you're hiking, you trip, you stumble, your body's going to be that much quicker to respond and correct your predicament than it would be had you not had the training of the inner ear and your eyesight. I mean, there are actually a battery of eye exercises as well, gaze stabilization, looking left and right, all kinds of stuff. So again, it's a deep rabbit hole, but get yourself on a pillow or a foam pad and get to it.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Fascinating.
I was very curious because, I'm one of those people that, when I roll my ankle, I will correct myself instantly. And people will be like, how the hell did you do that? I'm like, I have no clue. It's just my instinct of where like my foot is going to go. Basically, I have a feeling of that. But, I have no clue.
You're not watching.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? And then I roll my ankle and I'm just like, oh crap. And I correct myself. And they're like, whoa, how'd you do that? Like,
yeah.
No clue.
Totally. Or you're on your phone, right?
Yes, or correct. Not really. I don't use my phone at all when I hike. I take pictures and that's it.
Yeah.
So moving on, basically after my Pemi hike, what are some recoveries that I can do from long and stressful hikes?
Oh boy. Well, back to square one. Gentle stretching, rest. I mean, if you were sore, you could certainly ice down a little bit. That's have you ever tried ice? Ice is fascinating.
With my knees, it's either my back is heat, my knees are ice.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, if you're in any pain, ice is usually the best route. I've always applied a 10-point scale to that. If your pain's above a 5, stick with ice. If it's below a 5, stick with heat, just for recovery. Nice. But I would just stick with gentle stretching after the fact. And if you do have sore or let's just say tight muscles, perhaps not overdoing it for a couple of days, and just the only way you can get those knots out is to gently stretch. And a proper stretch is held for good 30-60 seconds, not bouncing. That doesn't work.
Interesting. Why doesn't the bouncing work? Just going back.
Well, it's like a reflexive response that you could trigger. So if you look at muscle protein, it's like Velcro. So you have the hooks of Velcro, and the sustained stretching tends to ease that grip of those proteins and eases them a bit. But the bouncing can just do the opposite and trigger tension. So it's always good to just hold it nice and steady. And not a rushed 30 seconds, but definitely 30 to 60 seconds legit.
Yeah. What a great explanation on that. That was fantastic. Once again, I wish people could see this video, because that was just, instead of, going back and forth, easing that, going like that. That's fantastic, Stomp.
Yeah. It's visual for sure. Yeah. The Velcro thing is pretty accurate too, when you look at muscle.
Yeah. So first time hikers, do you have not many people that listen to our podcast? I mean, your podcast probably are first time hikers and stuff, but any stretches, any advice for first time hikers getting into this deep stuff of the, maybe the 3,500 or the 45 or the 4,000 footers in the New Hampshire?
I guess I would start at the bottom and say, make sure that your feet are used to the boots that you're going to be using or the shoes that you're going to be using. If you're familiar with trail runners, fantastic, use them, great. If you're not used to boots and you're putting them on for the first time, make sure there's a break-in period, and make sure your feet are strong enough to handle them. They're heavier, of course, and
Yeah.
they're a whole different beast. So for new hikers, make sure that your feet are comfy and in the right shoes. Don't overpack. If you're just going cold turkey into a hike and you haven't hiked before, don't overload your pack. Make sure you have those 10 essentials, but go crazy packing all the other stuff, because hiking is challenging by itself. And to add, 20 pounds of stuff that you're never going to use or don't know how to use, not a great idea. And that could certainly lead to injury too. I don't really advise using poles in general, but poles for a new beginner hiker may not be a bad idea. But I tend to encourage people to wean off of poles, because it goes back to the balance thing. If you're forcing your body to respond and to utilize its systems the way they should be used, you don't need the poles. Your body's going to be that much better to manage your balance without the help of poles. Poles are like a rolling walker. It's like if you need it when you need it, but if you can wean off of the walker, get rid of it because you don't need it. So yeah, those are a few different ideas. Gentle stretching, like we said, and make sure that you're certainly getting the nutrients in. That's a whole other side of the story is the diet. Hydration, electrolytes, the right food on trail before and coming down. We had one guy on our podcast who really stressed the fact that it's the down that gets people, making sure that when you're at the top of your destination, recharge, replenish, and then head down. Sometimes people just head down and they're just spent, burnt, it's getting late, whatever, and then they get injured. So make sure you're fresh going down.
Yeah. They get injured or they get delusional or stuff like that, and they, wander.
Yeah. I could talk quite a lot about this, but Mike is a huge proponent of having those SAM splints in your pack, just so that you can provide some stability to a sprained ankle or a sprained portion of your leg or whatever it may be. So have the ability to stabilize your body and get yourself out there so that you don't have to call search and rescue, God forbid. So yeah, those are probably the top things that come to mind.
Yeah. Good points about electrolytes and stuff like that on the way down, because
Sure.
Once you get into that motion of going down, and like I said, you kind of zone out, you could roll your ankle, and it could be a bad roll. And
yeah, no question about it.
And it could be on the flattest part anytime, and it's because you didn't have that energy to focus on the trail and stuff like that. You just want to get down. You're just like, oh God, your mind is completely somewhere else, instead of having that energy to be like, okay, we're going to finish this hike and we're going to finish this strong.
Yeah.
Like me on Lincoln Woods, when I was just like, Jesus, when is this going to freaking end?
Jeez.
Right. So any tips for like seasoned hikers, winter stuff like that? Is there a whole different therapy with the winter and the summer and stuff like that?
Well, the big change with winter is the need to carry so much more weight. So I think the important thing to highlight is to start to transition your summer weight and your summer pack early, so that you're ready for the fall and the colder temperatures, when you really need to start packing more gear to be safe up above tree line. I think that's the biggest thing, because if you go from a summer pack weight to all of a sudden your winter pack, midwinter pack weight, you're going to burn out, you're going to sweat out, you're going to get cold, and who knows, you can get hypothermia and everything else. So be aware of that transition. It happens in the fall and it happens in the spring. So it almost seems like I'm constantly transitioning gradually. Like I'm still carrying a lot of my winter stuff up there in my pack, believe it or not.
Same.
But it's getting less and less. Yeah, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's important in terms of just the cardio and your strength to be able to carry the weight that you're going to need going into winter.
Any, like being with the cold, is there any different way of battling the cold with your, of course you got to keep up with your electrolytes and stuff like that. more? Do you have to do that more in the winter than you do in the summer? Do you think?
Mitigate the cold. Is that what you're getting at? So
Yeah.
you're eating foods hopefully with a heavier fat content because your body is burning more calorie in the winter, for sure. So you need that different input to get the output in the winter. But in terms of management, I think the biggest thing is just layering properly, knowing when to change out of certain layers, to add layers as you're ascending, starting just uncomfortably cold and then adding layers as you need to as you're going up. Because again, it's a big game of trying not to sweat because the winter is it's unforgiving for people that are soaked. It really is. It's a life altering event if you're up above and you're wet. So that's probably the biggest thing. There are simple tricks like, if people's hands are cold, I always tell them to do windmills with the arms, and that just warms them up almost immediately. In terms of fit for clothing, I always suggest a little bit of bagginess in your gloves or mittens or the boots so that it's not so compressed. Compression in the winter always leads to cold fingers or feet. So make sure there's a little bit of room in there. So those are a few different tips you can think about. Yeah.
Any differences in winter and summer and different areas in physical therapy that you've dealt with? Any more injuries or something like that in the winter than the summer?
Well, what you see in winter are just the same kind of injuries, but different modes of injury. So, for instance, you misstep with your crampon, you slide down 100 feet and hit a rock at the bottom or something of that nature, and you end up with a fracture. So a lot of the injuries are similar, but just a different mode of how they happened. Okay. I don't personally deal with a lot of wound care. So if you're dealing with hypothermia or, burnt skin or, hypothermic skin and whatnot, that's out of my comfort zone to really talk about. So yeah, you'd be dealing with that, I suppose. But, similar injuries, just different method.
So let's talk about injuries. We go right into the next kind of topic. Yeah. What are the most biggest hiker injuries that you deal with physical therapy?
Oh man. I mean, certainly just like an open reduction, internal fixation of a broken ankle. That's probably the most common thing that you would see. So you're dealing with a period of partial to non-weight bearing followed by gentle range of motion. Sometimes you have this hardware in there that's limiting the motion of a particular joint, so you have to restore that range. That's probably the most common thing. Yeah, open reduction, internal fixation, nuts and bolts, holding people together for a period of time. Yeah.
Is backs really common, like back injuries and stuff like that in hiking, or no?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, if you suffer a fall, but I mean, I think a lot of the population just naturally have problems with their spine at some point anyway, or their hips, especially if you're one of these long distance runners and whatnot. You're probably going to hear them complaining about, oh, I have bursitis or lower back's killing me. It's just part of the course, and I think it goes back to that whole thing of mixing it up, not doing the same thing to avoid overuse and just these patterns that are constantly wearing on your body.
Yeah. So, like, what's your favorite kind of? I know this is a really weird question. What's your favorite type of injury to deal with? Isn't that weird? That's a very weird question.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, it's something that you probably wouldn't see in the hiking community, but for me, it's vertigo. It's vertigo.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it's super, super cool and fascinating. Have you ever experienced vertigo?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the difference, like if you're feeling lightheaded, you may feel like, just dizzy or unsteady, but vertigo, the world is spinning. And it's so cooling for certain people, certain folks on certain medications. If they've been injured, it could be a younger person like yourself that has just been bedbound for a while. Then all of a sudden they experience a bout of vertigo. And as a PT, we've learned that it's 99% of the time it's mechanical, meaning there's mechanical reasons for it in your inner ear, the vestibular system. I was talking about that earlier. You get these little crystals that come out of a particular saccule, they call it, and they get into the gyroscopic tubes of the inner ear and they cause vertigo. So we've learned these maneuvers that can actually get those crystals back to where they belong. And it's almost like in somebody's mind, like imagine somebody with vertigo where the world is spinning and they can't even get out of bed. All of a sudden their symptoms are gone. I mean, that's just mind blowing. So it's a really fascinating area of PT practice, and it's actually really effective when it's that particular situation. But awesome, yeah, vertigo is wild.
Wow, that's unexpected.
Yeah, so I've had people that have had vertigo for decades walk out and just be completely fine. Like it's just like you're like created this miracle, but it's not. It's just this mechanical thing, and it's wild. So that's really gratifying when you give relief to somebody that suffered with something like that. It's just incredible. Yeah.
So you've been talking about a lot with the ears and stuff like that. Like that's wild. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, balance for me is my biggest focus of physical therapy because, it's less of a problem with us because we're younger, but with the elderly, it's catastrophic. If they fall, it could be over. You break a hip, it's hard to come back from that. So my biggest focus, and it has been for probably like 15 years now, is balance training and vestibular training. Working with people with like no sensation in their feet because of diabetes, teaching them how to, train their inner ears and their visual field and the function of their eyes to be more effective so that it sort of compensates for the lack of the sensation. So, dude, it's a massive, fascinating area of practice. It's awesome.
Wow. That I totally unexpected. I've never, I mean, I'm not deep into this like you are, but I've never heard of stuff with connecting of the ears with your balance and stuff and different areas of motion like that.
Sure. Yeah, it's neat, huh? And that's why that, like, back to the hiking pole thing, it's the same idea. It's like if you're using a device like that, it's not letting your body do its normal function. So yeah, it's fascinating. It trickles into different areas, but it's always there.
And I'm a pole kind of guy, dude. I love the poles. They say, dude, you should see how many bent poles I have because of how many times it saved me, especially on bushwhacking.
Oh, sure, yeah, I get that. But yeah, poles are sort of a hindrance when it comes to some bushwhacks because I'm usually trying to reach for trees in front of me or below me or whatever, but. With search and rescue too, you don't really use poles because when you're carrying somebody in a litter, you get the pole sticking out of the back of your pack, you're going to impale somebody's eyeball. So that was probably the impetus, even before realizing, these poles are making me less balanced because I'm relying on them. The bigger issue is that it could poke somebody's eye out. So I just got away from them altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on the search and rescue thing is, I don't use them with search and rescue, being on a search and rescue team with the Catskills, but when I'm on my own and stuff like that, I definitely use them. Like, dude, both poles bent like crazy when I was on the Pemi loop. Like, it was seriously hilarious. Even Mark borrowed my poles and broke them. It was hilarious. He forgot his poles. He was ashamed, and I was just like,
really? Huh?
Yeah.
That's funny. I don't see Mark as a pole guy, but yeah, maybe he just brought him for the hell of it.
He's a crazy guy, dude. We'll talk about that in a sec. So I guaranteed you got some crazy stories you want to share with me on the trail. I always ask people this, man. People love hearing this stuff.
Oh, on trail. I mean, I've had thunder and lightning stories. I've had near hypothermic, in really deep doo-doo stories. Bushwhacking stories are interesting to me because I'll always stumble upon, thankfully not the people, but the places where people are hiding in the woods.
Wow.
And it freaks the hell out of me. Like, I've found places that you wouldn't find otherwise, and you can only suspect that it's a felon or somebody trying to hide from the law. I've found literally dozens of places like this, and they're not like the hunting stoop or somebody's hunting. This is like somebody's living here, and this isn't cool. I found a 30-foot diameter teepee that somebody had built, and like fresh rope, fresh clothing hanging from the rope, an axe. Like, what the hell? And I come walking up to this thing, maybe 50 yards away, and you couldn't miss it. It was a massive teepee in the White Mountain National Forest, which is illegal. So I skirt around it, and I tagged it on GPS. I called U.S. Forest Service, because you never know. I mean, what if like Maura Murray's in that teepee hiding? I'm not going to play around with that. So I let them know. Sure enough, a couple days later, I bushwhack up in the same area. It's all cleared out.
No way.
Like, something was going on. Yeah, that always fascinates me. Like, who's hiding out and why? I don't want to find out, but I'm curious.
Yep. Definitely, I'm with you on that, because my friend and I, we look for the plane crashes, but we also stumble upon these old hunter sites or something like that, that have these old ancient, iron cast pans and stuff like that. And you're like, how the hell did people haul these freaking things all the way up this high?
That's awesome.
And why? And some of the places we've stumbled upon has actual like wood stoves. Like, I'm just like, this is 2,000 feet from the parking area. Like, what the hell is this?
That's awesome. Yeah, you can find so much out there.
You could. What about the hypothermia stuff? You've come close to that and stuff?
I did once. I was doing a spring. I actually twice, right here in Franconia Notch. I'm ashamed to say it too, because the first one was a mistake. Second one, I just didn't anticipate the amount of spring snow that was still up there. So the first one was basically doing, if you're familiar with Cannon Cliffs, it's basically like a 900-foot tall series of cliffs that are about, I don't know, maybe a mile long in length. And what I did was I hiked across the talus field of Cannon Cliffs, and I called it the up and over. So I went across the talus field, I bushwhacked up the southern side of the cliffs, and then up and over. My plan was to go over and down, but when I got up and over, just starting to descend, I was soaked, absolutely soaked, and there was snow that was knee to thigh high. And I look in my pack, and I completely forgot to bring I didn't forget, I just neglected to check. I thought I brought my snow pants, and they weren't in there. And I panicked because I was starting to cramp up. And I turned around, instead of committing to the 2 miles that were left to bushwhack through gnarly scrub in deep snow, which would have probably killed me, honestly. I turned around and went back up towards Cannon. And after about an hour of stressing it, I got back on trail. That was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. Terrifying when your body's failing like that and you don't have the clothing to get out of that trouble. Whew.
Yeah. So hypothermia is the one thing I do not want to deal with, and I don't want to deal with like someone else with that on the trail, because recovery is tough from hypothermia. Yeah,
no doubt about it. The second story was similar. I went up the Flume Slide, and the Flume Slide trail is a trail, but they confuse it with people confuse it with the actual slide. So when you look at Mount Flume from Franconia Notch, there's a massive slide. And similar situation, spring, got in deeper than expected snow and just bonked out almost maybe like a tenth of a mile from the top. And same thing, just like really hard time moving and trying to get up out of that slide. That was scary. Not as scary as Cannon, but that was another dumb time.
Sometimes, man. It's always like that. It's
Yeah.
always, and there's no shame in learning, basically, in those
Yeah.
situations. You basically learned, and you're just like, shit. Now, next time I know what to do. I know this, but you bailed out instead of being like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to summit this mountain. This is towards the patch,
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, you got to know your limits and know when to turn around. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't, it's tough to have your experiences here in the Catskills because we don't have tree line. We have we have viewpoints, and that's about it. We don't have anything above tree line. So
Yeah, that's nice though. That's really nice though. I really enjoy that style. It's not always about the views.
yeah, that's correct. And that's why I love bushwhacking. Bushwhacking is fun. So
Yeah.
let's see what else. Any funny stories you got? I know you're a funny guy, so you got any funny stories you want to share with us?
Oh man, I don't know. I anything that comes to mind. I don't know. Not really. I mean, I could tell you that when I first started hiking up here, I joined these social hiking groups one of them was called the Obnoxious Hikers, and their big thing was like naked photos and stuff like that, which I didn't do, thank God. But that was always they're still out there, I think. And then I joined this other group called the Hiking Hooligans, which I'm very fond of, and I'm still in touch with a lot of those people that were in that group, and they've since gone on to other groups and whatever else. I can't keep up with that, but there's been some interesting times with those people partying and whatnot in the middle of winter, and a 3-sided shelter and just getting hammered, and just fun memories. But this came to mind actually. My wife and I used to photobomb. People would like these really beautiful vistas. Like imagine this beautiful place. It's just a nice little pond with this modest mountain in the background. 2 miles, 3 miles in, she and I came upon, I guess we inherited it somehow, this inflatable yellow raft that could fit four people, 2 to 4 people. And what we would do is we would hike in to these remote mountain alpine ponds and just get in the boat and float around. So there were many times where people would be on the other side of the pond trying to get these pictures, and there's this eyesore of a float, this yellow tube just in the middle of their photo.
What the hell?
Oh my God. We did that so many times. It was hilarious. Like whatever. So yeah, we would actually carry up this gigantic boat and throw them into these ponds and just go floating.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's all I got for you.
That sounds like some good times, man. I don't have any times like that, man. I'm jealous.
Yeah, you got to have fun out there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Rock on. Well, Stomp, we're getting close to the end of the show. So
this has been fun.
Yeah. So do you up in New Hampshire, I know you have a bunch of places to eat and drink. So I have this little thing brought to my friend Mary Teacherell called Post Hike Brews and Bites. Where do you suggest to go when you're up in NH?
Okay, well, I'll give you the rundown here right off the top of my head. All right, so I'm gonna start with drinks, hard drinks, Mai Tais, that type of thing.
Nice.
Fugaki is great for Mai Tai and Chinese food. The Chinese food is really fresh, and it's Tenny Mountain Drive in Plymouth. But there's a new game in town for Mai Tai, and it's J.L. Sullivan's, which is in Thornton, which is Route 49 as you're heading into Waterville Valley. It's this big yellow Irish building on the left. This guy just created a Mai Tai that's going to blow your mind, and he puts fresh mint from his garden into it, so the mint infuses into this Mai Tai. Incredible. He did his research, like the Polynesian recipes and all that stuff. So that's great. For beer, I always got to say Reckless. Reckless is just fantastic. They're in Bethlehem, which is sort of the northwest side of the White Mountains, and it's all craft beer. Some of the brewers are on the rescue teams, and they have their own podcast at Fantasy Pants. It's like a Dungeons & Dragons podcast. So Reckless is phenomenal. You can't go wrong there. And then beyond that, I would suggest Schilling, which is in Littleton. That's another a brewery, but they're more of a Germanic type of vibe, the Germans, and it's just awesome stuff. For food, it's a new place we just discovered. It's a franchise out of Martha's Vineyard, actually, but they are up here in Lincoln now, and it's called Jimmy C's Pan Pasta. We went there last week, and it just blew our minds. Incredible service and just natural Italian. It's so good.
What about a burger?
Burger. Oh,
you can't go wrong with a burger.
You had to ask about burgers. Everybody does a great burger.
I know, right?
Seriously, it's sort of tough to whittle that one down, but I think I would have to go with One Love is pretty decent. There's Black Mountain Burger in Lincoln. That's not too bad. And then there's one other place, and I honestly forget the name of it, but it's in Woodstock as you're heading up towards Lost River, and it's on the left. They make a great burger. But Black Mountain Burger is probably the best, safest choice there for that. Lots of options too.
Nice. Yeah, I went to when I stayed at that one place. I went to it was a hockey place right off of the Kakamega Highway.
Okay.
Damn, I can't believe I am striking out with all these references that I had when I went there, man. I don't know why, but it was delicious. God damn. But it was great. It's right in Lincoln. I stayed at I think it was the Kakamega Lodge.
Okay.
And it was absolutely phenomenal. I love Lincoln's such a cool town. It's such a nice little town.
It is. Yeah, it is. It can be crowded, but it's a great town.
I could imagine going through there when it was dead. I was just like, man, this place has got to be killer when it's freaking alive.
Yeah.
All right. It's called CJ's Sports Bar. And
okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I've not been
nice
there.
Little middle of nowhere. It's just seriously below everything. It's crazy. But
yeah, other
than that, I have no recommendations. I got to go back. Hey, by the way, I'll be back out there in maybe late September, so I'll have to see you.
Yeah,
let's go for a week, and we're gonna hike some crazy areas. Well, not crazy areas because my wife is with me, but some areas.
Oh, we should be able to make that work. Yeah, sorry I missed you last time, but keep me posted.
All right, so go down through this. Thank you to the monthly supporters. Really appreciate you guys supporting the show. Thank you to the monthly sponsors. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you to anybody who's donated. And once again, thank you for everybody who's listening. Stomp, thank you for joining me on the show. I really appreciate you taking your time talking about this physical therapy and hiking. It's actually really big to prevent injuries while out in the trails. So search and rescue teams don't have to go out there and rescue you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was fun. It's a deep topic, and I hope I did it some justice. It's clearly a lot of information there, but hopefully people got some ideas.
They did, definitely. So have a good night. I hope to see you again in the future, sir.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking memes, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you just keep on living, man. LIVIN.
Wicked.